welcome. We are in Spring 1. We are almost halfway through the academic year, which is pretty amazing when we think about it. By the end of this term, we will be over halfway through children's time in reception with us. So what we've focused on this time is we've got some staffing updates, some timetable changes, which if our timetable has been impacted by whole school timetable changes, so I thought I'd just run through those with you. Have a little look at our topic for this half term. Very excitingly, we are going to launch Reception's first ever knowledge organiser today. Very exciting. Have a little bit of focus time looking at Read Write Inc. Update you with what we're doing in Power Maths this half term. Have a little discussion around fine motor, and then finally just look at some home learning, and we'll have some time for questions. So if there's anything that's not covered in the session, please do ask. Because sometimes it's just easier if we can just, because everybody sometimes has the same question, so it's quite helpful. So we've had, since we last met, 2 new members of staff join the team. So Anne Johnson has returned as our senior TA, which is fantastic. She started with us last week. Anne's got a really long history with the school. For those of you that don't know, she was the deputy head here for a very long time, and she's come back as our senior TA, and it's been really lovely to have her with us, and she's getting to know the children, which is fantastic. And Karen joined us after October half term, and she's joined our sort of team of one-to-one TAs within the room. Lots of you will already know Karen because she was at preschool again for a very long time, so she's been a real positive addition because it's another kind of early years specialist who's in the room with us, which is fab. And then the other staffing stayed the same. So Tracy, Paula and Helen are all offering one-to-one support within the room. And obviously Tracy's our school's Elsa as well. So she's, again, a fab person to have as a link into reception. And I'm still the same. So there's I'll be the ever constant. So our timetable has changed. I think I remember explaining to you guys last time, timetabling in reception is quite a difficult thing to quantify on paper because we run multiple things at the same time. So that's why it looks quite so as busy as it is. So Read Write Inc. used to be at 9:20. That's now moved to 10:20 across the whole school. So that's had quite a significant impact on our timetable because we're drawing the children together at a different time. We used to go off into continuous provision after Read Write Inc., whereas now we're going off and coming back and then going off again. But it does seem to be working quite well. The children have adapted really well to the changes in routine. So first thing in the morning, we will do our drawing club input. So that's where we learn our new vocabulary. So this week we've got enchanted, despair, endless. Today's new word is conversation. So those are definitely words if you want something to discuss with the children. Because I know if you ask them what they're doing at school, they say, oh, just playing, can't remember, nothing. Asking them what they didn't get up, stand up, those words, that might be a way of building that conversation. And I'll start putting those words on the blog. But what's been really lovely is seeing children use those words, which are way above what we would expect reception children to be able to use in context, and it is happening. Towards the end of last term, somebody told me they were feeling really serene, which I was really impressed about because they were actually sat really calmly. I was like, yes, brilliant. So we do that part. I model a drawing, and I'm sure the children have all told you I'm just the most amazing artist in the whole world. I think my staff initially thought I was role modelling, drawing like a 4-year-old. That is actually just how I draw. And we then go off into our continuous provision time. So that takes us to about 9:30, normally, that first part of the day. And then once the children are in continuous provision, Maths Club is running and Drawing Club are running. So Anne and I are dual teaching those. We rotate, so Maths one day, Drawing Club the other. And children are coming in their bird groups to sit and do that activity whilst we're playing. We then break for Read Write Inc. And then after Read Write Inc., it does vary slightly, but we need more time because we're now doing a literacy or kind of writing input as part of Drawing Club. So the children are not only coming and doing their drawings and talking about their story ideas, we're also, so this week, for example, we're doing the middle sound of a CVC word. So it's got their activity today is that you'd have the k and the t, and they've got to figure out that it's an a and write it in the middle. So we're just kind of beginning to build up their awareness of CVC words and how they could use those, hopefully, in a sentence quite soon, which I'm really excited about. There's lots of cats on mats and mans on pans and that kind of like beginning of a sentence, which is fab. Maths Club continues to run within continuous provision. So we run continuous provision, that whole section till about 11:30, but it will depend day to day to where we are, kind of if we need a bit longer. And then we'll have a book snuggle or a dough disco, or we'll do some letter join time. It is quite flexible depending on partly what the weather's doing, because if the children haven't been able to go outside and play, I'm not going to make them sit and practice their handwriting. I'm going to do something really physical like a dough disco. So we just kind of, it does vary day to day, but we do these activities throughout the week, kind of on repeat. On a Monday, we have Understanding the World, which is our kind of theme and our topic time, and then children will go back into continuous provision for the afternoon. During that time of continuous provision, we will be running intervention groups for particular groups of children. We tend to have an adult-led art-based activity where we're teaching a skill, which the children then can move into their continuous provision art-based activity. So this week we're making magic porridge pots. But with Anne from this afternoon, the children will be using clay to make a clay magic porridge pot. So we're teaching the skill with Anne in small bird groups, but there's also a continuous provision craft activity going on. And the children's jug modelling skills are really, really coming on. They're doing a fab job. So I'm really pleased to see that. There was a lot of learning that a box wasn't just a box. And then I was like, it's a car. And they all looked at me in September like, what is she going on about? It's a box. So that's lovely to see. Again, we've got our new handwriting scheme, Letter Join, which is being used across the whole school. We are using that in reception. That was the home learning sheet that came home. That's come from Letter Join. So we do that on a Tuesday afternoon. On a Wednesday, we are going to have small group letter join activities. That will be a real focused time with me, where we'll really be looking at their letter formation. They are doing letter formation and writing every day in Read Write Ink, so this is just a complement on top of that. On a Thursday afternoon, I have PPA, so Anne is running the class that afternoon, and so she'll be doing Scarf and Story Day. And then on Friday, we've got ball skills with Coach Luca, which everybody loved on Friday, so that was really lovely. But the timings, we do change, it's very, very fluid in reception. So this is really kind of an idea, it's an overview of the rhythm of the day, more than at 20 past we're doing this, at half past we're doing this. The only real key times we have is Read Write Ink and lunch. And then everything else we're really kind of flexible within the children's needs. So that's that. Oh, this half term we are doing Terrific Tales, which is a fantasy fairy tale style topic. We started last week with the Gingerbread Man. The kids tend to think I am the Gingerbread Man from the staff panto. So that was it wasn't planned, that was just the way it happened, it was brilliant. This week we're looking at the magic porridge pot. In a few weeks' time we'll be looking at the Mitten, which is a Ukrainian fairy tale. So it's been really lovely to incorporate that into our learning as well, because we can have a little bit of a focus talking about different places around the world, which will pick up again in the summer term. We will be celebrating Chinese New Year. Very excited about celebrating Chinese New Year. And we will have a visit from the Chinese Dragon Dance workshop with a reception focus this year, which is like super exciting. I'm hoping that we'll link our Chinese New Year celebrations to reflect our Diwali celebrations. On the Friday, we'll have a real focus day with lots of activities and experiences that the children can do. Fairies. We will start noticing little footprints around the classroom, and we're going to make fairy houses and kind of look at some of the history of fairies a little bit, how people saw them before, how we look at them now, because we are this constant looking back in the past to understand that certain things happen now in the present, and certain things happen within our lifetime, or within our parents' lifetime, and that some things happened a really long time ago, which is where dinosaurs will stomp in the summer term and talk about millions of years ago. and giants. We will have a giant visiting reception probably in the last week of term. It's very exciting. When we did We're Going on a Bear Hunt, I put bear footprints leading up to the castle, and I said to the children, oh, I think there's been a bear in because there's some bloody bear footprints. They're leading into the castle, and we made the bottom of the castle into a cave, and 30 children all went. So we do just need to, keep that thing of it's not real, but it's lovely to believe. Because I did have to go and say, there's not a bear under the castle. You can all go and pretend to be bears. It was lovely. They were just so sort of suspended in that belief. It was wonderful. And part of the early learning goals is that children need to understand that some things are real and some things are pretend. And that's what this topic does. It gives us the ability to have that wonderful suspended disbelief. Yes, there are fairies in the classroom, there is a giant stomping about on the field, but actually we know deep down that it's a story and that it's pretend, which is lovely. So those are our topic focus for the next 6 weeks, which is quite exciting. And this week we're doing the magic porridge pot. So there has been a lot of porridge oats flinging around in reception in the last 24 hours. That will continue for the rest of the week. But we are... I did wonder why there was magic porridge pot. Yeah, everybody, I'm a bit like, I love porridge, and I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten any porridge yet. Like, we will have to have some porridge. Children will be making flapjack today with Mrs. Bryant for the rest of the week, so there might be something that they're bringing home to share with you, which would be very lovely. Right, knowledge organiser, very excited. There hasn't traditionally been a knowledge organiser in reception. There was a curriculum bank which is linked with preschool. That is going to continue. We're just kind of rejuvenating it now. But I felt it was really important that we had a knowledge organiser. I think they're really useful tools to help link between home and school. The knowledge organisers, if you've got children up, further up the school, do tend to be kind of information-based of what children are covering in school, what they're learning about in school. Our knowledge organiser is going to be a partnership between school and home. It's going to be us telling you what we're doing within the kind of the context of each of the areas of learning. So it's broken down into, for example, expressive art and design, personal, social, emotional development, literacy, maths. And at the bottom of each page is their suggested activities to do at home. Things that they'll either be a repeated practice, something the children have done with us that you can then do at home with them, or activities that we hope will extend children's skill or knowledge of an area. In the same strain as home learning, which we'll talk about at the end, everything is optional, but it is there as a reference point for you to kind of have a look and think, oh, actually, we could do that. I have deliberately kept activities simple. None of you are going to have to make Play-Doh, salt dough, some kind of dyed rice, like we have kept it really achievable. And I was able to go, would I want to do that if Liza's teacher asked me to? So I did kind of think in terms of things that would be achievable. I'm hoping they will come home this afternoon, the knowledge organisers, because they are a new document and they are a new way of working in reception. They might change slightly over time. There'll be another one for spring too. But any feedback that you have for those, it'd be really helpful because it is something it is new to reception, it is something we're developing. So any feedback you have, that would be fantastic. But I'm really excited that we're going to have something very reflective of the rest of the school as well. And it's a bit of good practice, so when you guys all do eventually move into year one, you'll have a lovely knowledge organiser and know what to do with it, because we've all practiced together in reception. So like I said, I'm hoping they're going to come home today. That's the plan. Okay, there were some questions within the parent feedback about Read, Write, Ink. So Read, Write, Ink it's a whole school scheme. It runs really, preschool are doing elements of Read, Write, Ink. It runs all the way through to year 4, and it's based on the children's individual level of development. So we assess the children every 6 weeks, and then they're placed into a small group, which is exactly where they are within their area of their terms of development. The groups are kind of 6 to 10 children. There tend to be 8 they tend to be groups of 8 children, so it's very, very small teaching. And it's exactly where we've assessed where the children are. I do all of the reception assessments. I spend a very long time doing them and making sure that we're putting children in the right groups of where they should be. And the children are making some really lovely progress across the different groups in Read, Write, Inc. So in reception, we've got children accessing Set A, Set B, Set C, a ditty, and then I think a green group. So we've got quite a varied level of group. I take the Set C group. We can, if parents would find it useful, we can send something home so you know which group the children are in. Would that be something that people would? Okay, that's fine. What I will do is I'll just print it and it will just be your child is in a blah blah. It'll be that basic, blah blah. But I think what we need to stress is that just if you're aware that your child is in a different group from another child, that doesn't mean there's a cause for alarm or concern, because learning to read is a really individual process. Some children, it takes them a little bit longer to get off the ground, and then suddenly they fly, and other children pick it up straight away, and they're like, yes, this is what I want to do, and off they go. So with giving you the children's groups, I'm more than happy to do that, but I just don't want people to be concerned about it. If you do have any concerns, just come and talk to me. All the children are making lovely progress. All of them across the class are making lovely progress. And the activities do vary slightly depending on what group the children are in. So that's where it's quite difficult for us to be able to say, I could give you the sounds that my group have done this week, but actually I'm teaching, I think I've got 9. So then the children are split up into other different groups as well. From Set B onwards, children will be bringing home a sheet with them, so that's a real key indication of what children are learning. They might be bringing home a book. We've had a few last week who've begun to bring home books as well. So those are the opportunities to kind of practice what they've been learning in the week. If you, like I said, any kind of concerns or anything you want to discuss, do just get in touch. But the children, as a reassurance, they're all making some really lovely progress, which is fantastic. I don't know if I've got another. Oh yeah, here we go. This is like a general overview. The sheet up here, I will print one out and put it with the knowledge organisers so that everybody's got them. It's very teeny tiny on there, but it will tell you the rhyme for writing the sound. So, if it's like for snake, it will say slither down the snake. And sometimes with the children, sometimes they're like, oh, what's this? You go, snake? And they go, oh yeah, and then they're fine. And other times you go, oh, slither down the snake. And they're like, oh, I've got it now. I shared a video last week on the blog about the correct pronunciation of sounds. Some of them are quite different, particularly when our generation were learning to read. We're done with loz and puz and buzz, and it's looking at what the true sound is. So, for example, a pa, as we learn, is a, and it's a much more effective way for children to learn to read. So if you're unsure of any of the sounds, do have a look at that video. And there's lots and lots of Read, Write, Inc resources on YouTube. So each group will be reading and learning the initial sounds. As children progress, that will change to Set 3 sounds as special friends. They start talking to you about special friends. That's to tell the children 2 letters that make one sound, such as ch. So that, as their knowledge increases. So these up here, these are all special friends. They're not very clear, but those are special friends. And as they progress through the school into year 1, if we look over behind Dave, you can see a sound chart here. So you've got A, E, I. Those are sounds that children will continue to learn as they move through. And it's those 2 letters that make one sound, but it's a real fundamental block of phonics, but that is moving more towards a year 1 style of learning, ready for, I won't mention the phonics check. We do segmenting, which is Fred talk. So really, children seem to remember Fred talk. So if they're saying to you, oh, I'm not sure, so ask them to Fred talk it, because they've got, oh, Fred talk. So a Fred talk would be a cat for cat, and then the blending is cat. So Fred talk is a cat. And writing initial sounds and letter formation. So that will be based on certain words for each day. So like yesterday we did red, rat, rob. And today we're doing jug, jam, and another j-based word. But we just build on it throughout the week. Depending on where the children are, the words become more and more complex as the children go through the scheme. So it's kind of a shifting process all the time. But like I said, everybody's assessed every 6 weeks to make sure. And so almost every child moved in January into a new group, which was fantastic. Power maths! We're learning numbers to 10, which I'm pleased to say everybody already knows. Everybody's got beautiful rote counting. They can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what we're now honing in on is the amount. So there's, I think we spoke last time about finger counting, to kind of go 1, 2, 3, 4, because sometimes children go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm like, no, slow down. Let's make sure we've got that cardinality. 1 is 1, 2 is 2. And we have an introduction of a tens frame at the beginning of last week to help children identify amounts. We did 5 frames last half term, and now we've moved into 10 frames. And again, this is like a real fundamental building block for maths in year 1, having that real awareness and a sureness of the numbers to 10. So although we can all go, oh yeah, we can know the numbers to 10, actually what we're doing is making sure that they know what 6 is, and they know what 7 looks like, and they know how to get from 7 to 8, and those kind of real fundamental building blocks of number. We will move through, so we're doing Unit 7 at the moment. We'll start Unit 8 next week. And then as the term progresses, we'll look at addition to 10 and number bonds to 10. The maths is taught in small groups. We do it in our bird groups. And if we're aware that children need a little bit of extra support, we add that in on top. When I was saying in the timetable, we've got that intervention time. If we're aware children might need a little bit of extra support. Or extending, that's the other thing, is if children I've had a few children in the last week sort of go, oh, did you know? 2, 2, 2 is 6. And I'm like, ooh, lovely. So then I'll go, okay, well, what happens if you add another 2? So it is very based on where children are individually as well. We'll stretch children who kind of feel very confident within 10 already, and then we'll make sure that children do feel confident within 10. So linking this back to our maths, to our knowledge organiser, some of the at-home activities are when you're reading a book, count how many butterflies there are. When you're outside, count how many buses there are, count how many, and it just helps children rehearse and repeat what they're learning in school. So the activities in the knowledge organiser are quite simple, but actually they are fundamental to developing their skills, just that repeated practice. Because actually they can all count, but there's 8 here, but this was a bit of a challenge last week, having never used a tens frame before, making sure we put 8 down. And I blew a few minds when I moved my counters around. They're like, wow, that's still 8? So that's what we've been really focusing on, is if things look different, you could have blue spots and yellow spots. Was that still 8? And children go, well, yeah, of course it was in 7. So I go, oh, well, 1. And I go, ooh. So there's that kind of, it's a real exploration of maths in early years, which is lovely. Fine motor. This is an area I have written of sustained focus. It is an area of sustained focus for us. I think we're not sure if it's a reflection of the pandemic and that children were playing outside more and walking. Didn't we all just walked for 2 years, didn't we? We just walked and rode bikes and went to the park. But it is an area that we are continuing to develop with children. And we will have a sustained focus moving forward. Lots and lots of children are making wonderful progress. Everybody is making progress, but it's just about helping to release them. They have such wonderful ideas in drawing club, and they have such lovely ideas in read, write, ink. And what we don't want them to be held back is by a pencil. We want that to flow with them. So that's part of the reason why we're having this sustained focus. Their scissors skills are brilliant. We've had a real focus on that. Oh, look, there they go. Hi, reception. Oh, aren't they gorgeous? Oh, I just love them. Every day, I'm like, oh, hello. So we do a lot of cutting, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of cutting. thumb on top, chop, chop, chop. That's the rhyme, and they'll go, all right, Evans. We will, drawing. I'm not the best person in the world to teach children how to draw. So there's this fabulous video with a guy, and we sometimes watch those, because sometimes children really want to know how to draw a cat. They just want to know how to draw a cat, or they just want to know how to draw a castle, or they just want to know. So we spend time looking at those things and learning how to draw those, and I learn with them, and it's just amazing. And letter formation skills. Again, this comes back to letter join. So yesterday we were doing a lot of linking to the home learning, which was a swoopy and a more of a square design. We spent a lot of time yesterday going, woo, 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 because once they've got that movement in their shoulder, that moves down to their elbow and then eventually moves down to their wrist. And that's what we're trying to make that link between, is that those movements go from being massive circles, thinking of scribbles on a penny, so then it becomes quite a blocked movement where things get straighter and then things begin to get more delicate. And so that's the process that we're going through with the children at the moment. Lots of tweezers, pom-poms. I'm making them push porridge oats this week into piles with their fingers, which they're just loving. They're like, oh. There's toothbrushes and they're like, shoo. I'm like, one at a time. Come on, let's go. So we're using our Peter pointers and our Toby tools, buttons and zips. It's a really difficult skill to be able to do buttons and zips. So we are having, partly because it's raining all the time, but we are having we're really trying to promote that with children. Can you try and do your zip up? Can you try and do your buttons up? Because it's really tricky. And it takes really small, tiny little movements. And I'm saying to you, we're focused here and we're going like this. We're now expecting children to go like this. So yes, any practice of buttons and zips would be amazing. Because poor old Mr. Bascom comes in and helps us pull our coats on and break down. There's like 6 adults and Mr. Bascom trying to get all their coats on, bless them. So yes, that can be your home learning, buttons and zips, please, please, please. Because those are just really important skills for them to develop. So there will be lots and lots and lots of focus on fine motor. Because it is releasing for them. It gives them freedom. When they feel confident writing or drawing, they just do more and more and more and more, and the world kind of becomes their oyster, really. So we are looking at that as a push this half term. We're nearly there. This is the last one. Okay. We intentionally didn't set any home learning last half term. Partly because they're all so tired on a Friday, and my home learning for my 4-year-old would be just sleep and play, and that's fine because you're 4. We have sent home our first letter formation sheet. They are all optional, but they are it's like a little mini activity at the weekend. There's nothing wrong with the children doing some colouring or some fine motor skills at the weekend. That would be lovely if they would be able to do that. The ones that have already come back in, because there were some back in yesterday, I've put them up in the room. So we'll just kind of keep a bit of a collection of them. They don't have to come back in. If they want to come back in, you can. Again, there will be simple suggestions on the blogs, probably linked to what we're doing. So for example, in maths, it could be, I thought of biscuits then. I was like, can you count 10 biscuits? It will never be 10 biscuits. Sorry, that was weird. Yesterday we were counting pasta. Can you put either 9 pieces of pasta or 10 pieces of pasta on a 10s frame? And some children had 9 and some had 10. And we discussed the differences. So it might just be very simple things like that. It might be, here's the video from, so this week we're watching an animation in the Magic Porridge Pot. The children might like to watch it at home. Because it is quite difficult when they tell you they're tired and they played all day. It's quite a hard thing to what do you do? Don't remember. Okay then. So it's just to perhaps nudge those things. And like I said, I'll add the vocabulary that we're doing in Drawing Club onto the blog as well. Reading records in reception, we're like pretty top notch. Well done, guys. It's ace. It's ace. It's brilliant. Love it. But they're a difficult thing in reception because the children aren't reading yet. So it's about our relationship as adults to the children's reading development. So some parents are putting like a couple of books in their reading record, and I go, yep, that's fine. Some, there are 3 or 4 pages a week, that's fine too. You can use them how you want to use them. It's just that intention of reading to small children. It is such a huge tool to be reading to small children all the time. They have conversations around it, their language improves, their awareness of the world improves. It doesn't matter if you read the Gruffalo 50 times. You're still sat, having that time together. It's focused one-to-one time. They're still having that rich language. If you do read the Gruffalo 50 times, your child will know the Gruffalo really well, and that's part of the early learning goal, being able to retell a story. Boom. That's okay. But do keep bringing them in. As children do progress through Read, Write, Ink this year, more and more and more children will be bringing home reading books, and you can record that in there. And there's a big push in the literacy knowledge organiser about reading to children. And we read throughout the day. There's always a group of children having a story at some point in the room. But our book snuggle time is where we're like, yeah, come on, let's sit down and have a story. So we'll do that. And like I said, specific groups of children will be bringing home a sheet related to their Read, Write, Ink learning, and that starts from Set B. When children enter Set B, they'll be bringing home a sheet once a week. And once you've watched the video on how to say the initial sounds, you'll just be away. You guys will be like, yeah, that is a k. It'll be brilliant. It's whole new relearning as an adult when your children start doing phonics. It's like a totally different way of working from how we were taught things back in the day. Right, I think we're on to the question ones. I feel like I've spoken a lot. Yeah, look, everybody. Anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask? At all. Could be what I'm having for lunch. I don't really mind. Could be what they're having for lunch. I can't tell you. Maple syrup. Nice. And I don't know what the vegetarian option is. That would be a veggie meatball sub.
Or jacket potato and ham and cucumber.
Oh, well, there we go. Thanks, Crystal.
And flapjack.
Oh, I love the flapjack. Flapjack is brilliant. It's excellent.
This morning.
Yeah.
I get it after school. She comes over and goes, "What did you have for lunch?" She says, "I don't know, look it up."
Yeah, okay, then I will. Whilst we're talking about lunchtimes, I'll figure out